Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark, and coming up on today's episode we're going to be talking all things music. I'm joined by the ex-Reuben frontman Jamie Lenman, and in my opinion, not to build him up too much, is probably one of the best songwriters of the last 15 years. If you've ever met me, you know of me, you've listened to any of my other podcasts, you will know my love for the band Reuben. It's such an important, crucial band for me growing up that is the reason now that I have some of the friends I have and the people around me that I have. This band was so important when I was at university. I think I went to see them at a small gig, something like the Leicester Charlotte or something, supporting a band like Biffy Clyro or Million Dead, and this band came on stage. I knew nothing about them and they absolutely blew me away. They were just about to release their debut album, Race Car is Race Car Backwards, which I think after a couple of weeks it came out. I rushed to HMV and bought it, and it changed my life. This album is phenomenal. There's not one bad track on there, and if you haven't heard this debut album right now, stop this podcast and go and listen. You will not be disappointed. It's an absolute masterpiece of a debut album. And while you're there, do you know what? Go and listen to the follow-up, Very Fast, Very Dangerous. It's an incredible album with some incredible songs on. And do you know what? If you've stopped the podcast and you're listening to two albums, why not listen to the third album while you're at it? In Nothing We Trust. And absolutely, it's so good. It's so raw and so different, but you can hear the band progress. And for me, it's by far one of my favourite bands of all time. So to know that I had the opportunity to go down to Jamie's house and sit in his lounge with some microphones and just ask those questions that I've always wanted to ask and get this interview for you all is a dream come true. Jamie has also released some solo material, and his most recent album, Devolver, for me was my favourite album of last year. Again, another album I urge you all after this interview to go and check out. It's on Spotify, but it's also on Big Scary Monsters label, and you can go on to bsmrocks.com and order yourself one on there. They've got the vinyl, they've got t-shirt bundles, but support this label and support this artist, because Jamie is phenomenal. Where do I go from here? So, what I want to say right now is I'm so lucky that this interview happened. I'm so grateful to Jamie for inviting me down to his house and actually just doing this audio, because you've heard many Mark and Me episodes now. Hey, 32 of them. And sometimes the quality's hard because I'm speaking to guests in America, I'm doing Skype, I'm doing telephone interviews, but I was lucky enough to do this face to face, and I think you'll hear a huge difference and improvement of audio on this interview, so I'm really excited to share it with you all. So instead of me talking and babbling on, why don't we get straight to the interview? So here it is. Here's me and Jamie Lenman. Enjoy. So Jamie, thanks for joining me today on the Mark and Me podcast.
Thou art welk.
First of all, I want to take it right back to when you were a little tiddlywink and you were really young and you were probably in your bedroom.
You've gone straight in here, straight to the time travel.
Straight in there.
No preamble, yeah, okay.
Exactly. You were a little tiddlywink, you were at home. What were those albums that you were listening to as a kid that made you want to be in a band?
Well, my parents played a lot of Searchers and ABBA in the car, and they had a lot of these sort of tapes that you'd get from a garage for like £1 or whatever, and they'd be all the Sounds of the 60s compilations. We had 4 like CDs of Sounds of the 60s, but none of them had the Beatles on, because obviously it's difficult to license the Beatles recordings for these things. So I had a very weird sort of view of the 60s music. We had all the 60s hits, but none of the Beatles, which was a bit of a sort of a censored, not like censored, but you know what I mean, it gave me a lopsided view of 60s music. But that's what I was hearing from my folks. And then later I spent a brilliant summer at my auntie's and uncle's house, and I had one of them little tape decks where it's got a handle on it and one big speaker and all the buttons down the bottom, and my Uncle John had made me a tape which was Revolver on one side and Rubber Soul on the other, and that was all I listened to for an entire summer when I was maybe 8 or 9. It was amazing, and to this day I can't tell you where Rubber Soul starts and Revolver ends, or the other way around, or what tracks are on which, because they sort of sound like the same album, and I just had them on this tape all the way through the summer. But I suppose, I mean, that's the first 2 albums that I really fell in love with, even though I wasn't really aware of music as a thing, or as a career option. But I think it was when I got Queen Greatest Hits 1 that I thought, that's what I want to do. I like my parents' music from the 60s. And to be fair, I'm not really sure Queen, you could really call that my music either. It wasn't my generation. Freddie was dead by the time I found Queen. But that was the first time that I was like, right, this is the deal, this is me, that's a bit of me. I've always said that I wanted to be a combination of Brian May and Freddie Mercury in one person. And I think I've fallen... Well, here's the thing, I've fallen significantly short of both of those goals, but if you aim for the absolute summit, then when you fall short, you're still pretty high up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, massively.
So, I've got no problem being not as good as either Freddie Mercury or Brian May.
I'd be happy if I was like 10% of both of them, really.
Absolutely. So there you go, I think that's a good way of describing it, yeah.
Okay, so you've been listening to Queen, you were listening to all those kind of massive anthems at the time, like stuff like Bohemian Rhapsody and stuff, it still, today, sounds like it was only recorded last week. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And the Beatles, that's quite a good starting ground.
They're both, the thing about the Beatles and Queen, and I'm not sure you could say the same about many mainstream bands, if you look at these big rock bands, Nirvana, let's say Nirvana, they made a huge breakthrough. Nirvana, they're writing very great, simple songs with huge melodies, but they're not often very complex. What the Beatles and Queen do was, you'd find, records in the top 10, like Bohemian Rhapsody, and, Penny Lane, or Strawberry Fields is probably a better example, of incredibly complex music. Texturally rich and time signatures up the wazoo, all these amazing ideas, somehow served up like your mum hiding vegetables in a pie or something, right? So they're being fed to the public who just hear a great song, but it's incredibly nourishing stuff musically, very clever music. So yeah, for a kid who grew up on staple diet, basically the Beatles and Queen, that's a very good schooling in terms of how to write music, and not just pop music. All kinds of both those bands had a very big leaning on classical music, didn't they? And
massively
avant-garde and all this crazy stuff. Yeah, amazing groups.
So when was it at that point? I mean, what age were you when you had did your parents buy you a guitar, or did you save up after doing like a paper round or something to afford your own six-string?
I won a guitar. My parents were very good in that they only rarely would they straight out get me the thing. Later on when it became apparent that my talents lay in songwriting, they bought me a little 4-track recorder, which was incredible. In the same way that you would buy your kids like school equipment, that I think that was important, and I couldn't have afforded that on myself. But sometimes, most of the time, they would hang back and they'd sort of say, if I said I want a guitar or I want an amp, they'd either say, no, you got to work for it, save up, or they'd say, look, I'll meet you halfway. My dad, he'd say, look, if you get a job and you get halfway, I'll fill in the rest, I think that was a good way, and I earned it, and I bought my first amplifier all myself, and I actually won my first guitar. I was banging away at my folks for an electric guitar for ages, and they were like, no. And at one point, my dad was like, look, if you pass grade 8 on piano, then I'll get you an electric guitar. I was like, come on, Dad. Grade 8, come on.
5 years
Absolutely.
later.
And then I just I circumvented the whole thing by winning it. I won a songwriting competition. My school put me in for a songwriting competition. And, I won. I came second in my age group. And because it was the youngest age group, I don't know maybe they thought we were going to blow all the money on sweets. The other age groups, the older age groups, they got straight up, here's a grand prize money. Which,
whoa.
Right, I could have done with. But my age group, they gave the prize money to the school in terms of musical equipment. I think the idea was that they sort of guessed that maybe the music teacher had written the songs for these younger kids. Yeah. And the music teachers were all there, obviously. So I won this thing where I came second, and my school got 800 quid's worth of musical vouchers for Yamaha stuff, which I thought was a bit of a swizz. But they used it to buy me. Well, they bought the school a lot of keyboards and whatnot, which is great. But they bought me my first white Yamaha electric guitar, and then they gave it to me in assembly on my birthday. And it was rad. And oh my God, of all the things, because Yamaha, I play Yamaha.
Yeah.
But no one thinks of Yamaha as guitars, do they? They more like to think about, obviously, keyboards, pianos, and motorbikes.
Yeah, it's usually the little keyboard with the demo button that you want to push when you're a kid.
Absolutely. But, the fact that guitar they got me, that Yamaha happened to do, was such a good guitar, and I still play it now. that was great. So that was I got my first guitar basically through a competition through my school. It was brilliant.
I want to know then, so if you came second and got a 6-string Yamaha guitar, which is worth a few £100,
yeah,
what was first prize? A drum kit or a...
No, I mean, first prize would have been, I think they got £1,000 worth of vouchers. The people that got, there were 10 little girls, and they all had a song, and they all played a guitar, and they all did a sort of sidestep rhythm to sing this song together. And I wasn't very taken with it. Obviously, I was bitter that I hadn't won. But I wonder how they're getting on. I mean, that's a long way. That's not a lot between 10 girls.
Not a lot.
Between
at all.
10 people at £1,000, only £100 each. Couldn't even get a Yamaha guitar with that. So I probably lucked out. Actually, I should stop feeling so bitter. Maybe I'll let that go after all these years.
just about now.
It was 25 years ago, quarter of a century. What?
It's about the right time to say goodbye.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Cool. So at that point, when was it you actually found some mates that also had the same kind of vision of you of let's try and make a band?
It's tough. It's tough. For a long time, it's just me on my own. I didn't really have many mates at school because I was weird, and I'd have like one mate at a time. And I did have a mate. Well, first of all, like before I even got my first guitar, there was my friend Chris Hawes, who was this amazing. You know that like the 3 billy goats gruff. That story about the 3 billy goats gruff, and they got to go across the bridge, and the ogre won't let them. He was like that, but with his 2 older brothers. It was Chris, who was 10, who was about my age, and then there was his brother Pete, who was maybe 14, and then there were I think it was Dave, who was like 18, and they were like various ages of a rocker, and they all had a little electric guitar, these 3 boys, all different colours of electric guitars, and you go around their house and they just talk about rock and whatever, and I got a lot of my rock education that way. So he was my first buddy that I was in a band with called Sheer Power, and it was just him on guitar and me on just vocals because I didn't have a guitar. And when we did 2 songs, we did Bohemian Rhapsody and we did Everything About You, My Ugly Kid Joe, and that was it. And then later on, I had a mate called, what was his name? I liked him a lot. Chris Trussler, I think his name was. And he played clarinet, and I had an electric guitar, and I was like, that's a good enough lineup for a band. So we were in a band, and the lineup was electric guitar and clarinet.
Wow.
Called AstroTurf. That was pretty wild. And I was writing a lot of songs by this point, and he'd think of clarinet parts. You couldn't really call it a band. We didn't really play anywhere. We just played by ourselves, which was fun. It was only a lot later when I got to secondary school that I actually found some people to be in a band with. And even then, I'd started, I had a few more mates then. I got less weird or more weird, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I found a couple of buddies who had electric guitars, and they introduced me to all. I'd never heard Green Day or Nirvana when I got to secondary school, and by then, it was already a bit late, and so secondary school was a real great place to find people. It's tough to find a drummer at secondary school when you're kids. I can't go out the door without tripping out some drummers these days. Drummers all over the place.
Yeah.
I've got 2 drum kits myself, but back in the day, you couldn't get a kit, so no one wanted you to learn drums because it's too noisy. So drummers were sacred. They were thin on the ground. Everybody played guitar. Couple of people who played bass.
They were usually guitarists that couldn't be asked to play the guitar, or they knew their mates were better.
Frustrated guitarists.
Yeah.
And no drummers. So it took us a long time before we found a drummer. But yeah, nowadays I've got drummers on tap, yo.
It's like a parent's worst nightmare. Like, what do you want for Christmas, son? A drum kit.
Oh my
God. No,
God.
what do you want for Christmas?
Yeah.
Yes, a drum kit.
Yeah, we don't celebrate Christmas anymore.
Yeah, that's it. Gone.
Shame.
So when was it you met John then and started to kind of form Angel? Was that...
You've done your research. John, I was going to guitar lessons with a guy in Lightwater, which is unnecessary detail that you don't need. Although, do you know what? He taught me a lot. A guy called Julian Head. And I was learning guitar, and I said to him, he was very keen on he thought my songwriting was my talent, which, let's face it, if I've got one, it is. It's certainly not singing or playing guitar. And he was quite keen to encourage the more acoustic-y, soft side of things, but I kept going, no, I want to be in a punk band, And he's like, well, look, if you want to be in a punk band, there's this kid that I teach called John, who plays bass. In fact, he said, look, there's 2. He said, I've got a kid called James who plays bass and another kid called John who plays bass. If you want me to put you in touch with them. And I thought, well, I'm already called Jamie. That'd be confusing. So, and it's good because they both went to my school. I didn't get on with James at all. So it's good that I didn't get James in the band. So I called up John, and he had a bass guitar, and we just played to a drum machine for a while. I'd already met another kid outside of these guitar lessons called Richard, who was playing guitar with us. And but yeah, I met John through our guitar teacher, and then we met a lad at school because we all went to the same school. Then we met a lad called Paul, who was in the sixth form. We were like year 7, and he was in the sixth form. He was a lot older. He was the only drummer in the school, apart from Mark Lawton, who later joined Angel, but he didn't like us. He wasn't our mate. He was much closer in age to us, but we, because he made it clear how he felt about us, we had to get Paul Brady, who was great. So yeah, we had a sort of a motley band. That's what I thought I liked about it, is that everyone else, they'd make, and sorry if this is going off a point, but I've often thought about this, about being in a band, and sometimes I wish it had been the other way around. I envy bands that they're just your mates, and then everyone goes, let's be in a band, and then everyone picks up an instrument, and that's great. I think those bands have more fun. I'm not sure if they go on to have such illustrious careers or make such worthwhile music, but for the time that band exists, if it really is just your mates, that's so great to have. And I never had that, because I was always more interested, quite apart from the fact that not many of my mates played instruments, I was always interested in forming the best band. The band was always the focus. It wasn't friendships first and what should we do to hang out, we might as well play some music. It was like, I want to be in a band, who's the best? And so that meant at our school, school bands, it's a big culture for the more musically minded kids. Usually a few school bands. Mostly they were kids that were in little gangs anyway. They were already mates, and they play a few songs and whatnot, and they had such fun. They weren't great to listen to, but they had a great time. Whereas mine was always, and they're always in your peer group. And at school, I don't know if you remember at school, in British schools, I don't know how it is elsewhere, it's almost like a class system. It's difficult to hang out with kids that aren't in your year.
Yeah.
We even got in trouble when I was at school for hanging out with kids in year 10 and your year 9 don't hang out. It was difficult. It was like, marrying outside your religion.
It is, massively.
To hang out with other kids. And in my little band that I put together in that school, every single member of the band was in a different year at school. So we didn't really hang out, and it made a weird, whereas everyone else, one band were a gaggle of mates and they looked the part and they all dressed the same and they hung out at the same time. That made sense. We were this weird little, I was like 12, the drummer was 18, people that wouldn't usually hang out together. And so, but I mean, we weren't mates first. We became mates later. And I sometimes envy those people that were mates first. I think maybe they have maybe not a richer experience, but a different experience. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, maybe if we'd have had that bedrock of friendship first, it would have made things easier. Or maybe it would have made things harder. Who knows?
The thing is, it'd be frowned upon now if the 18-year-old is hanging out with the 12-year-old and the 15-year-old. It needs to be, like you said, I think the only time we ever mixed with the other years was when it was like a football tournament.
Yeah.
And you'd be allowed to then the kind of barrier dropped and you could say hello and nod.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird, isn't it? But, these days, the difference of 6 years between people, certainly our age, it's nothing. If you were going out, maybe you were going out with a girl from, you in year 9, you're going out with a girl from year 11. That was front page news.
It was.
Difference of 2 years.
Yeah.
Imagine that. My wife is younger than me by 2 years at least. That would have been scandalous.
It was.
That would have been like a year 11 going out with a year 8. What?
Insane.
Insane. So yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we were a motley little band.
So you then, obviously, you replaced drummers and got Guy in after the release of Pilot, ready for Race Car Backwards.
Yeah.
Now, Guy added this whole new dimension. His drumming ability is insane. I think you kind of were his little tutor in a way and got the best out of him. I saw him progress over every record that he did.
Maybe.
That first album, Race Car Backwards, Jason Wilcox nailed the production at the time, I think. It sounded like the same band that I would then see when I went to the gig. And right. I think that's a compliment to most bands.
Sure. I mean, we were very happy with actually how that record came out. It was very difficult to make, and we weren't particularly involved in the mixing process. We just sort of got it and heard it and went, oh, okay, great. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard some people say the production on that record is a bit scrappy. I know... well, I won't name names, but some producers I work with now go, oh, it was great because it sounded a bit live and a bit scrappy. And I'm like, what? I thought it sounded like $1 million. I actually thought it was quite produced, as in quite glossy, the way it sounded. But if other people think it sounds lively and scrappy, then that's fair enough. I mean, I'm not sure it has much character, the production, but maybe that's not for me to say. Maybe I'm just too used to it. Yeah, he did a good job.
Did you go and initially record it as a group of demos for a label and then it turned into an album, or did you go to this chicken shed, record, and make it the album it was meant to be?
First we recorded every song we had, which is about 50 maybe, at the same studios with slightly different kit. And those were the album demos just for us to choose, because we didn't have a label on board at that point. We thought, look, we're just going to make the record ourselves. And actually, I might even prefer those demos to the final record. I think they had a little bit more vitality to them and a little bit devil may care. I think we started, your first album, you want it to be great. It started to overpaint someone. I think it was John, actually. Well, it's not a very original metaphor, but he would say about mixing, he would say, look, it's like if you're doing a painting, you just keep on painting and you paint over and over and you've got to know when to stop. And someone else said, art is never finished, it's only abandoned, which I quite like. I heard that on the telly the other day. And so it may be that the actual album had a little bit too much thought put into it. The demos we did, some of which were released on the 10th anniversary edition of that first record, I thought they were better. We did them in about 2 days. And because we were that good, we could just bosh it out. And I think they've got a vitality. I think if I'd had the lyrics ready, then we should have just released those instead of buggering about for months on the actual final record. It took a long time and maybe slightly overthought.
See, when I listen to it, I just think, like I said, it was the band I heard when I got home from the gig, and that's amazing. I hate going to see a band and then you get home and there's extra synths and all these different things going on, and you're like, that doesn't sound like the band I just went to see. It's completely different.
But I mean, I come up against this a lot because obviously these days I tour as a two-piece, and people are always asking about the difference between the record and how can you represent what's on the record, and there's more stuff on the record. And what I always say is that, I mean, I like where you're going with that you're saying, well, it doesn't sound like the band I saw live. But on the other hand, I quite like the fact that live and record is different. They're different animals. They're produced in different circumstances. And unless you genuinely do just put a mic in a room and record a band, play their set start to finish, which I'm very excited by the concept of.
Yeah.
I think they should be separate. And even though the gap between what I'm doing now on record and live wasn't quite as big as it was back when we did that first record, there was still a big gap. I mean, there was still at least 2 guitar tracks on even the simplest of those songs. There's a lot of piano on it. There's a lot of strings on that first album, and overdubs and little overdubby guitar parts. So I'm glad that the energy came across. But there was still, I've never made a record that I've been able to produce exactly live, because there's always extra stuff in the studio. Yeah.
So then, like most bands, there's the difficult second album to kind of, you've laid your foundation.
I thought it was the third one that's supposed to be difficult. Is the second one difficult?
It's meant to be the second one, people are saying.
Okay, yeah.
But there's a lot of bands out there that nail it. Like for me, like Biffy Clyro nailed it. They released their second album, Vertigo Bliss, and I was like, wow, this is evolving and this is what I'm liking.
It is very good.
Very Fast, Very Dangerous is Chris Sheldon just making it sound like one of the best records you can hear. You listen to it now and it doesn't sound like it was recorded, 15 years ago or something crazy like that, 10 years ago?
Don't do it to me. 15 years ago, can't be.
It can't be that many. Probably about 9 or 10, but it's a while ago.
It's close. It's more like 12 or 13.
But it's still a long time, and it doesn't sound like it was recorded, that long ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be candid with you, and I'm sure Chris won't mind, he's got a thick skin, I'm not very happy with the production on that record. It wasn't really what I was after. I wanted something liver and looser, and again what we came up with something that was quite glossy, I think.
It's well polished, the sounds.
Sure, yeah. The drums sound big. I was never happy with the bass sounds. That was a bugbear of ours, that we found it very difficult to get a good bass sound, but I mean, we didn't really have that. Our gear wasn't very good. The second one was a bit ruined for me. I have a tough time with it because we were very excited about it at the time, but it got a big backlash from not only the press but also people that were close to us. So we played it to our friends. They were like, it's not as good as the first one. We were like, thanks very much.
Cheers.
And also because a lot of the songs were simpler, well, in terms of structure, like, Keep It To Yourself or Kick in the Mouth, they're more like little grunge songs, aren't they? Whereas I think people were used to stuff like Fall of the Bastille or No One Wins the War on the first one. People sort of thought, and again, because people thought made it quickly. This is the trouble, because we made Race Car in, what was it, 2003, but it took so long to mix and come out and find a deal that it came out a year later. So then when Race Car comes out very fast, they've all got cars in them. when Very Fast comes out, maybe only 8 months later, people sort of assumed, oh, well, they made it in a hurry. It only took them 8 months to write. It's only been the first one was only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. And
because when the songs were simpler, they thought, well, that's because they didn't have so much time to write it. But actually, we'd been writing it for 2 years almost.
Yeah.
All because Race Car had been finished so long before, and actually writing a simple song for people that are used to writing stuff, windy, weird stuff like Fall of the Bastille, Missing Fingers, or whatever, is tougher. And so I think a lot of people thought they've just boshed something quick and easy out, which really depressed us. And certainly the online press that had championed us when Race Car came out, like Drowned in Sound, they really went for us. And they were like, this is a rubbish album. They've just boshed it out. There's no care in it. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. And the trouble is with the press a lot of the time, and with bad press, there's good journalists and bad journalists. And I always said this, they've already got all the reviews written. They just change the date and the names. There's a well-worn narrative for musicians. There's Up and Coming. There's Difficult Second Album. There's Return to Form, which is what happened to us. That I knew on that third album what all the reviews would say. I could have written them for you. And so the indie press, they decided, we got on a big label. We hadn't. And now we got a big name producer, and sort of, now we're the big boys. We'd sold out, and now they're doing these pop singles, which we'd always done. They decided that it was time to chop us down, so they withdrew their support, which we'd relied upon. That was quite hurtful, and that was when I realised that, oh right, it's a game, isn't it? It's not about appraising our work or our career. It's about fitting us into a narrative that you already have for a lot of these outlets. That was depressing to see that side of it. So I can't really listen to that record without that twinge of, I think it was a disappointment to a lot of people, certainly to people close to us. The bummer, I worked really hard on it.
I love it, so that's...
I love you! There you go.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, good.
You did it for me.
Thanks.
I love it, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
What was it like then when you actually got Chris Sheldon on board? Because the colour and the shape and stuff like that are some of the best sounding albums. You must have been like, this is awesome.
It was great. I mean, he was a fantastic guy to make a record with. And he'd worked with Biffy and Oceansize, which is why we were excited about using it. The colour and the shape didn't really matter so much to us, although we loved it. We were more interested in his skills as a producer rather than just a mixer. I think he mixed colour and the shape. He's a great mixer. But we wanted someone that we could spend, a month with and really work it out. He's a fantastic guy, and we had a whale of a time. We did have some problems, actually. We had some problems with tuning. We couldn't get our guitars in tune, and we lost quite a lot of time working on tracks that just came out all wrong. We actually recorded that song Blitzkrieg. It was supposed to go on the second record, but we had to abandon it because we just ran out of time because all the guitars went out of tune. And I probably had trouble singing. Every record I've made has been quite stressful, really. But we had a lot of fun with Chris, yeah. Although, I mean, he would really go to town on the old reverb, and he would call us in, he would say, here's my mix. And we'd listen to it, and it'd be so poppy and reverb all over the shop. And he'd go, what do you think? And John and Guy, and I don't care about saying this, because we can have it out later if you want, John and Guy, you can call me up. They'd be like, oh, sounds great, Chris, sounds fantastic, lovely, love what you've done. And Chris would go, Jamie? And I'd be like, this is awful. Scrape all that reverb off, turn them drums up, for crying out loud, put that solo back in. And I'd really battle with Chris. Not battle, because he'd go, oh, okay, no problem. He was very, I don't want to say acquiescent. He just wanted to make us happy. He worked for us. And he didn't have any lofty ideas of, this is my record and you're just the instruments I used to make it. It was our record. And so whatever I said went, that was great. So he'd go, okay. And he'd try and make a bit more rocking for me. And then we'd go back out to the telly room to watch telly while he fixed the mix. And then as soon as we get out, John and Guy would be like, it sounded awful, didn't it? I was like, yeah, thanks for backing me up. Yes, it did sound awful. And this would happen every time. So I'd have to be the the obstinate one, which is a role that, yeah, maybe I fill particularly well, it would always be me that was the sledgehammer and go, no, do it again. Because I knew that he could get what we wanted. And he wanted to. You know, he wasn't at all combative or obstructive about these notes that I would give him. He'd go, no problem, that's great, I could do that. And I love him a lot. He did get it. We did approach the last 2 days of our studio time, and we were only about half the tracks through the mixing. And he was like, oh, great, I think we did some great work, and then next week we'll come and mix the rest. And I was like, Chris, we've got 2 more days to mix the whole record. And he's like, oh, shit! He mixed the last 6 in like 2 days, because I think he thought we had an extra week, so he was really taking his time. But good, I'm glad you think it sounds good. I had fun. Maybe it needs a reassessment by myself. I'll have a little listen.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, they put it out on vinyl, didn't they? I might put the vinyl out. It's in there. I know you can only see the bald noggin, but yeah.
I like how you placed that, your latest one there. Ready?
Was because it's only not because it's the best, just because it's the last one I've got, the latest one I've got. Yeah,
it's when you've got it was like everywhere around the room is placemats and everything, stuff. With
I've got it upstairs. I've got all the posters upstairs. Yeah.
So what was it like then when you went completely on your own and did Hideous Records and released your 3rd record, and you had a lot more control over the creativity and everything? I'm sure you and is it Sean the producer?
Sean produced Nothing We Trust. Yeah,
I've got his surname.
Gnocchi,
there we go.
Biscuit, that's what we call him, the Gnocchi Biscuit.
Watching the studio diaries, it just looked like you two hit it off from the moment you first kind of set in the room together. You could just tell that this is going to be a kind of partnership that's going to do well.
Yeah, he did. He really did understand us as people, and you can see that we had the same sense of humour, which was a relief. Which, yeah, we'd perhaps not shared quite so exactly with Chris and Jason. Jason we knew from school, so we had a long history. He'd actually been the drummer in Angel before Mark joined. So he knew what we were about musically. To be fair, we all had a slightly frictious relationship with Jason when we were at school. And Chris, like I said, we got on famously, but we weren't really on the same wavelength humour-wise. We had a lot of fun. But, Sean, it was like he was in the band almost.
Chris has got the age difference. He would not be in your, year at school. That's the big difference, you know what I mean?
I think that's it, yeah. I think Sean would have maybe just been one of the 6th form prefects smoking in the corners and telling us not to go in the wrong toilets.
Yeah.
He could have been there. And he seemed to get the sound as well. We first heard some B-sides that Gnocchi had done for Ingerica, who were brilliant. And we preferred the B-sides to their album. Their album they did with Dave Erringer, and Gnocchi was the engineer on it, but it was too polished. And then when they went back to do just some B-sides with Sean, they were perfect. And I was like, wow, this is great. So we called him up and got him to do some demos, and then eventually did the album with him. Yeah, the trouble with those studio diaries you mentioned, and you are right that you can see from those how well we got on and how it gelled. I think you can hear that on the record as well. But the trouble with the studio diaries is, and I watched them again recently I went round to Mark's house, Mark the old drummer, and we had a look at them because his wife hadn't seen them. So we had a look through, and they're lots of fun. But those studio diaries are about 1 minute long, and that's 30 days of 18-hour days, let's say, in the studio. And that 1 minute of the fun, that's all the fun there was. all the good times went into those videos. The rest of it, the remaining 17 hours and 59 minutes, was hard fucking work. And there was not often a lot of smiles. We all loved each other and got on, and we were all striving towards the same purpose. But it was tough. Making Nothing We Trust was hard. But people sort of think it was like a ball party the whole way through a bouncy castle jellyfest. It wasn't. It wasn't just, the comedy playhouse every day. It was hard work.
You teased us all because watching those, you're thinking, I want to be in the studio with these guys. They're having the best days of their life, messing around, doing Star Wars noises.
It is fun. When I watched them the other day with Mark, I remembered. I'm looking at it and everyone's joking about and doing a silly voice, but I can remember what happened immediately the cameras turned off and the huge argument we had right then. Or in some cases, the huge argument we just had before someone turned the camera on and we had to, be engaging. And because we were sending them out to the fans on YouTube and we wanted to say, look, this is how our album's going. So I can see just around the edges of all those and go, oh, I remember that day. That was when we cut my hand off or whatever, you know. So yeah, we did tease you all. It wasn't intentional. I mean, there's no point in filming the arguments. Well, there is. But if you're doing the filming yourself, when we did the documentary, that you got some arguments filmed there, but that was by other people. No one wants to turn the camera on when you're having an argument, unless you're an outside party.
Or you're Metallica doing some kind of Monster, the documentary where you just want to be Lars and just give a bad name to show what you're really like.
That's great, isn't it? But again, they had outside agents to do that for them, where you can't capture it. Yeah,
I can't imagine a Reuben counselling session live on the DVD.
We had a few, mate. We had a few, and they weren't very productive.
So with In Nothing We Trust, it's your favourite Reuben album, isn't it?
Yeah.
You absolutely love it. Is it the fact that you could actually record what you wanted and you felt like the stuff you were putting on record is a true representation of your songwriting?
Not really. I mean, I just think it's got the best, not only the best songs, some of the best songs, and there's good songs on the other ones, but I think as a whole, it just makes sense more than the other two. The first one is obviously, first album is always like, lots of songs, you've been playing them for years, they don't really fit, you're not really thinking in terms of album, you're just thinking in terms of what songs have we got. And the second one, I think if we'd have taken that long one off it that everyone likes, what is it called? Return of the Jedi. That would have been a better album because it would have been, half hour of power, a short, sharp shock, and it would have hung together a bit better. I think the third one just hangs together as a concept much better. And I was looking at richer themes musically. I mean, we'd always had complete control over what we put on the record. Is that true? No, that Xtra Mile asked us to put Let's Stop Hanging Out on the first one, which I didn't want to do. And they were talking about us having scared of the police and all that whatnot on it. So to a very small extent, yeah, there was pressures, not pressures, but suggestions from Xtra Mile, who are a record company, that's fine. But as to, what we might want to put on it. They wanted us to put Blitzkrieg on the second one, and that might have worked, but we ran out of time. So yeah, there were people suggesting what we should put on the records before, and you're right, In Nothing We Trust, there was none of that. So yeah, maybe that is why I like it as well. I listened to it the other day. It was well good, mate.
I listened to it on the way here today.
Did
just
you?
as inspiration, and I was... Suffocation for the Soul. That outro riff sounds massive.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I had a lot of turn it up, Sean. I have. Turn it up more. I will. Turn it up more again. I can't. Turn it up more. Okay. All that. I'm glad.
The dynamics as well, even stuff like Good Luck, when you brought in Hannah, those vocals and the harmonies and everything is so nice. And then you've also got stuff like Cities on Fire, which is elements of Pantera.
Do you think?
Scream on that that riff at the opening thing is it rips my skin off my face.
Blimey. Yeah, I think it succeeded. I had to listen to it and I thought, I was listening to Crushed Under the Weight and I thought, this is exactly how I would do a song today. Often when I listen to a song by anyone, I don't mean just myself, by anyone, I will listen to it and go, oh, could I put a trumpet there? Or, or I imagine like a harmony I would have added. And often if I ever go back to listen to my own music from Reuben, which is actually quite rare, I sometimes think, should I put a harmony in there or should I put a weird noise in there? I listened to Crushed Under the Weight and the rest of that album, and I wouldn't change a thing, which is unique for me in my catalogue. I just thought, how about... And sometimes I thought, it'd be good if this bit comes in with... Oh, yeah, we did that, And, I'm really happy with it.
And I suppose that was the one album when I did see you play, it wasn't... transcribed to the live set perfectly. Like Agony Agatha, you didn't have the piano obviously going on as the main din 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 din.
I tried to learn the piano, but I wasn't good enough, so we just did it on the guitar. But I quite like that because then you get the guitar version,
I like that. It's a bit more punchy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the end of Reuben.
Yeah.
I saw you at Download Festival and you were in one of the tents and it was full. And the year after, or the 2 years after, you were on the main stage.
Yeah.
And, with full respect, I was quite surprised that they gave you that slot because that's a big thing. I was like, bloody hell. Like, as much as I was rooting for you and wanted you to headline the bloody thing, to see you actually on that stage, I was like, people are now actually going to give them the love and respect that they've earned after all these years of touring and playing. I was like, wow, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't that long after that. You were like, right, we're going now, bye.
Yeah.
And what was it that triggered it? Was it, are you just not enjoying it anymore, or...?
Hadn't enjoyed it for years.
No.
I mean, the thing the thing with that live, you make a point about that main stage thing, and that came about all the like stuff that happened for Reuben that you would associate with like a band making a step up, or at last reaching some kind of next level or whatever, or some kind of recognition. It was always because there was somebody in the system somewhere that was a big Reuben fan. No one else gave a shit, but Jimmy the Letters Boy, the coffee man, had somehow put our name in the pot. Do you know what I mean? Which is fantastic. And those people, we got to do a lot of good stuff, but it was always some kind of backdoor secret fan, that we'd slip through the net. It was never because we actually were a main stage status band. We weren't. It was because they gave us the choice. They said, look, you can either go high up on one of the smaller stages, or if you want, you could go first on the big stage. We were like, big stage, please. And they were like, do you not want to reconsider? We're like, big stage, because we thought we'd never get to do it again. So it wasn't, we weren't on that main stage because we were a main stage band. We were there because, someone who personally liked us, so why not throw them a bone? Which I'm just grateful for. That main stage at Download was one of my best highlights of my career, if you can call it that. But it was always the secret fan where we would get the good stuff, and so it never really represented any kind of movement. And I have to tell you that one of the triggering the decisions to like call it quits was things like offers for the next year at Download, which were on the smaller stages, and we thought, oh right, we haven't actually progressed anywhere.
That T-guy's not pulled it
that
again.
T-guy's left.
Yeah.
That was just a blip. The offers, the show offers and the record offers that were coming through for what we might have done next. After sort of the record had come out and a few months afterwards, when we were looking through what our next step might be, we were right back at square one. All the progress that we thought we'd made in that last year and a half or so of Hideous Records and releasing it ourselves and Nothing We Trust and Download, whatever, it hadn't actually amounted to anything. We didn't have any money in the coffers. The offers we were getting for shows were sort of the same as we'd just done, if a little bit smaller, and we would just have had to have started from basically 2 years ago. And so at that point, we were so exhausted already after having done it for 10 years. And the last two particularly had been incredibly hard because we were doing it ourselves, our own label, everything we did ourselves. For someone then to say, do it all again, do 2 years of work again, start from 2 years ago now, was just like, well, that's impossible. We just can't do it. We just couldn't do it. Faced with that uphill struggle again to get to the top of fucking Ben Nevis and see another fucking Ben Nevis you got to go up.
And someone chop your leg off as you get to that point.
Yeah. You think, well, fuck this. No, I'm just going to do a forward roll all the way home down the bottom. We just didn't have the energy. We were on absolutely empty. And then we're going, off we go again. It's like, well, no. And, nothing was easier. We hadn't made it up that level where we had a bit of relief. Nothing. It would have been started. I've said it a few times now, but it really was like starting from square one again, and we just weren't ready to face it. We didn't have any energy left, so we had to stop. Yeah.
There's only so long you can eat Aldi baked beans for as well.
Absolutely,
you need Heinz.
Yeah, you do.
And if it means breaking a band up so you can get those Heinz with sausages in as well, sometimes.
Oh my God, with the sausages.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's quite a sad case. You decided to call it a day. The first sign I think I saw when I saw you weren't happy, and I'm just being honest, is when I watched the DVD back and you come off stage in Birmingham, I think, and you look genuinely fucked off. You've got a red face, you've got a towel around you, and you just look like someone that's just had enough. You're just like, fuck this. And you left that on the DVD. You were very honest on that. I love the cereal and everything else, the fun parts, but you kept that in as well to show it isn't all like the studio videos. This is how it really is.
Well, I think that is... I mean, I know what you're talking about because, again, I watched it a couple of weeks ago. That is the closest that DVD got to showing the ugly side of being in a band. None of us wanted to have a fight on camera, and we didn't really have that many fights. And there's some hot words between me and Guy, and I don't mean sexy. I mean angry. I'm really... I mean, that's about as cross as we got as each other. It's still very polite and British. But when I watch it, I wish I hadn't spoken to him like that. But he understands, and he even understood at the time. You can see what he says after I leave the room. He understood at the time the pressures that we were facing that I was facing. I think, to be fair, that was just a bad gig. I don't want to throw you off the scent. That was just a bad gig. You know, the cracks had started to show by that point, but it wasn't an all-encompassing thing. I still thought the band had a lot of time in it at that point. But I think it was just a bad gig. But it was all compounded by all the pressures, wasn't it? And maybe I wouldn't have had such a bad gig if I'd have had them Heinz beans. Do you know what I mean? It's all part of when it's your whole life, which it no longer is, which is why I cope with it so much better. Then every little thing adds up to it, and before you know it, you're screaming at someone you care an awful lot about in a dressing room. Awful.
Did you start writing a fourth album, or was it after In Nothing We Trust you were like, this is it? You knew that was the kind of closing of the book?
What had started to happen was that there was an atmosphere in the band, and I felt like there was a resistance from Guy and John. And again, like, you know, if you boys want to call me up and chat this out, I think we're all quite at peace with what happened in the band, and I don't think there's anything I could say about or on behalf of Guy and John that they would argue with. And if they did have a problem, I'd hope, you know, that we could talk it out.
Pizza Hut is always there.
Pizza Hut is always there. I had Guy round for a pizza the other day. It was fucking brilliant. And we don't tend to talk much about the band. I felt like, and this isn't to say that there was, I can't really say what they were feeling, but I felt like from them there was a resistance to new material. I couldn't get them excited in the same way that I'd been able to before about playing a new song. You know, I would say, let's try this new riff, and they would say, we ain't really got time, or, you know, we better, you know, sound check instead. I think a lot of the time I would try and get some work done in sound check. I always thought that was helpful. You know, you do your songs, everything sounds good, you might have about 20 minutes to muck around. That became not an option. They would say, oh no, we've got to make sure this drum works, and I'd be like, we just done that drum, you know.
Yeah.
And for whatever reasons, and I could be remembering this all wrong, but for whatever reasons, I felt like there was a resistance from those two, and they were all I had, to writing new material. So even if learning new material, so even if it was just me writing it in my bonds on my own, I still needed them as a soundboard to see how it would feel and if it worked or not. That process really shut down. It was hard enough getting enough songs for Nothing We Trust, really. There were a couple we didn't put on it that wound up as B-sides, but that was all we really had. And by the time we'd finished that, there were no new songs. For the whole, you know, from when we started demoing and then recording in Nothing We Trust, I hardly wrote anything new at all. Nothing approaching, you know, a fourth album. There were a couple of bits we were playing around with. We had a go at Too Scared to Fight that I then did with Sean a little bit later. But that was basically everything I had. It was the coffers had... Not the coffers had run dry, that's not the coffers were empty. The well had run dry.
Yes.
It was just because I wasn't being... Previously, I was in an environment where I was encouraged to, you know, well, we've got some new songs, or if I said, listen to this new song, everybody would be like, yeah, and jump on it, and we jam it out, and it would sound brilliant. That disappeared.
Yeah. For
whatever reason. And it may have been a result of an atmosphere that I was creating, because I was not fun to be around, especially that last couple of years. So I wouldn't say I blame Guy or John for how they behaved. If indeed they behaved at all, that was just how it seemed to me. It could have been that they were perfectly open to it, but something was blocking me. But I felt like there was an atmosphere that wasn't conducive to new material. So that's why it sort of stopped. Yeah, I didn't write anything.
Do you get sick to death of everyone in the whole world asking if you're ever going to come back and do this reformation and come back on and do... Is it just a case of that is done? That is a book that will not be reopened? Because it just seems, even talking to you now, it's kind of... I couldn't see... Even if someone offered you a multi-pack of Heinz baked beans with sausages,
yeah,
and the breakfast selection, you know, when we get like bits of egg and stuff.
I know what you mean. Yeah, you get the whole breakfast in a tin. I only get sick of it. I'm happy that people like it enough to want to ask and they want more. I get it. I only get sick of it because I've been answering that question for 10 years, and it does feel like people aren't listening to me.
You're trying to give them the hint.
Yeah.
No, it's not happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a sticker.
People, they'll keep asking until they get the answer they want, which is a shame because I can never give you the answer you want. And it's like having to tell someone every day that Santa Claus doesn't exist.
What?
Yeah. You are sharp. This is some sharp stuff. You came at me there.
Whoa.
It's a question like that you're always going to disappoint people. If anyone asks me that question, what that means is I'm going to make you unhappy in a minute.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, don't ask me that question because you won't like the answer.
Yeah.
And I get a bit cross when I just feel like people aren't listening. Like when people say that Reuben broke up out of the blue, it's like, were you not listening?
Yeah.
There was a song on that last album called Suffocation of the Fucking Soul.
Yeah.
What did you think that was about? Have you heard Return of the Jedi or even Freddy Krueger? You know, it could not have been clearer how difficult it was. We got a reputation for being the band that moaned on and on and on about how difficult being in a band was. And then when we split up, everyone was like, oh, I thought you liked it. I'm like, no, mate, listen to the actual fucking records.
When you buy the album, inside, if you read those lyrics that are printed...
They say we're going to split up in a minute. This is our new song, we're going to split up next year. So, and it's the same when people ask me if they're going to reform. Unless you've never met me or never read any interview with me or listened to any of my material, I would forgive that question. But otherwise, just pay attention. Like, it's fucking clear that I don't want to. And it's incredibly unlikely and basically no.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what was it like then, looking back? You've got fond memories, obviously. You said you still listen to the album now. It must be nice to be involved in something that I don't think will ever happen again. That's a massive statement, but we had this influx of amazing British bands. We had Vex Red, we had 100 Reasons, Hell is for Heroes, we had Reuben, we had all the Million Dead. This massive influx of bands.
Yeah.
I remember watching Top of the Pops and Collins on there singing Silver by 100 Reasons, and I was like,
yeah,
this is mental. Rival Scores were doing well, all these great bands.
It was a good time.
And it was awesome. And I don't think we'll ever get that again, where we have so many great bands come through in one go. I think it's
I don't know. I think
difficult now.
Why?
Just because the record industry is... It's tour, and people have to still work, and it's not the dream of I can just solely be a rock star or in a band.
But it wasn't then either. We were all struggling then. We came in at the very end of when labels had any money, so it was already falling apart at that point. You know, everyone had part-time jobs, apart from 100 Reasons. They
Biffy Clyro.
Well, even they when we were playing with them, Biffy still had. That's not quite true. They were a few steps on from us. But for the first couple of albums, I'm pretty sure they still had their jobs and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, at the time, I didn't think. I wondered when's the next crop of bands going to come up, and there isn't much of a scene. And it's only now, so many years later, that I can go, oh shit, there was tons of really good bands. But there are bands now. There's tons of really good bands that employed to serve Black Peaks. Arcane
awesome.
Roots.
Yeah.
I'm saying this because they're all my mates,
And you've appeared on some of their albums.
No, they're all my buddies, but they're my buddies because I feel like now I know where to look. I sort of feel like I'm in a little scene again. I'm quite happy about it because, you don't have to get two cracks of the whip. That scene that you're talking about in the noughties is very distinct, and we can pick all those names. I think people will look back at what's happening now and read off to you the names that I've just said, and others that I've missed out, Palm Reader, all those great bands, and go, look, what a fucking great scene. Imagine going to a gig back in the day. Imagine going to Lemmania. That's what I tried to do with Lemmania, even though there's some weird choices there. A lot of it was bands were in that scene, Roller Tomasi, all these people. It's great.
Perhaps I need to get in my time machine, go forward this time.
You do need to go forward and go,
and look back and go,
great?
whoa, Black Peaks.
There's
what
lots
was
of stuff happening, yeah.
Perhaps I'm like Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite and I'm stuck going back in 2002, those 100 Reasons bands.
With the gems, and the little...
I need to get with the cool kids.
You do need to, yeah.
So you went away, Reuben broke up and everyone was crying and everyone was upset and, it was a tough time. And you were like a little ninja. You went away. No one's heard from you. You didn't do any press doing the whole, we broke up because of this or statements or any of this stuff. You just said hiatus and the website said maybe we'll be back, blah, blah, blah. Quite straightforward. It said something, it left you open a little bit. It wasn't final nail in the coffin.
Okay.
The people on the forums were saying, blah, blah, blah. But then you just came out of nowhere with your solo album.
Yeah.
Literally, it was like, not many people do that anymore. It's like when a Cloverfield film comes out now. It's like,
Yeah.
what? How the hell did everyone hide this?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just an EP. It was a double album. It was you putting everything
Yeah.
for the world again, and overnight it just came from nowhere. Wow.
Oh, well, yeah. I just thought I didn't want to make a big fuss because I thought there would probably be a weight of expectation against anything else that I might do. Because even though I wasn't producing anything, things were still coming my way in that 4-year gap or whatever it was. I was still in touch with my agent, Ross, who's still my agent, Reuben's agent, still my agent, various chums in the music industry. So there was still a lot of chat, and people would ask what I was up to and blah, 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 and we'd still get offers for, did Reuben want to reform and
Download.
come and play?
Jimmy's
Yeah,
back.
download,
He's on work
yeah.
experience.
All that stuff. So I sort of got the feeling, and when I'd meet people out and about in the streets, they'd say, when are you doing something and whatever, which is nice. And so I was aware that there was people were listening out and would listen if I did anything. And so what I wanted to make sure didn't happen, because again, some of this started to happen with Reuben as well, which made it very difficult, is that people would have their own ideas about why we were doing stuff and what they wanted. It's made it tough. The longer you go on, the more people get attached to an idea and they have their own concept of what it should be. And it's very often quite similar to how they first encountered you, So we would even get emails after Nothing We Trust came out. Someone writes an email and said, why don't you make another album that sounds like Race Car Backwards? And we're like, right, because we sort of done that. Plus this does, doesn't it? And all that stuff. And so if I'd have said, hey, everybody, I'm going to put out I'm doing some stuff, even before I had an album written, back in the studio, or even just like next month I'm going to put out an album, or in a couple of months, people from that point would have started thinking to themselves, what's it going to be like? And they would have drawn their own conclusions, and they would, in their mind, have constructed their own version of what my new album would sound like. Would it be exactly like Reuben? Would it be completely different? And whatever I did from that point, I've been a fucking hide into nothing. I was bound to disappoint half the people, and they go, this isn't what I wanted. Much better to go, here it is, fucking deal with it. And everyone was like, hey! It went really well. I think it blew a few people's minds to come out with Fizzy Blood and Pretty Please at the same time. I wanted to create the strongest reaction and a big contrast. And everyone was just really cool about it and, accepted it with an open mind. And I think, I don't want to do people a disservice, but I think if I'd have warned it, put a little sign up on the website, coming soon or whatever, people would have had time to bubble away, and then they'd have this figment of their imagination which whatever I did just couldn't possibly match, and that would have led to a disparity and disappointment.
I want Reuben Mark II. I want it to be
Maybe.
like, Tonight My Wife Is Your Wife. If it's not like that, I'm not buying it.
Exactly.
And all this shit.
Maybe. Or at least, that they would have been disappointed, yeah. Whereas if you've got no expectations, you can't be disappointed.
Was it nice, actually, not having to do studio diaries and going out there and posting updates and doing this and not starting to do interviews, just literally you, and is it Sean again, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sean.
You just sat there and just did the album how you wanted with no pressure from a label saying, this one doesn't sound poppy enough. Because that first half of that record is fucking heavy.
Thanks.
You screamed your lungs out.
It gets pretty hoarse. I know, again, making records is always hard for me. And I got to say, making Nothing We Trust was hard because we did it over, 3 or 4 years. Long time. And we only did it when Sean had a free gap of time and he was away a lot. And so he'd be busy with lots of projects and I'd be badgering him, when can I come in and do a bit of guitars, or when are we going to get that mix? So it took a long time and I was sort of in limbo, By the time I'd started writing and recording it, I felt ready to sort of get back out there. And it took another 2 years after I'd reached that point when it finally came out. So I got quite frustrated because, it took a long time, quite apart from the fact that it was such a huge album. So it was difficult to make. It was nice not to have any pressures from outside, sure. I quite like doing interviews and whatnot. So it wasn't that I was relieved not to have to do it.
It was a nice kept secret. It really was. For us fans and for the listeners out there.
That was the most important thing.
It was awesome.
Cool.
Was
glad.
Was part of you thinking, do it as 2 releases? So you got this one big metal, real thrashy, heavy.
Yeah.
and then you've got this separate CD, or is it always going to be like a bit like Melancholy and Infinite Sadness? Was it always a two-parter?
I did. There's a few ways I thought about doing it. I did think about releasing 2 albums on the same day, the soft one and the heavy one, and that would have been quite cool as well. But if I'd have done that, people would have been less likely to listen to them as a piece, and their strength, I think, is in their contrast. On their own, the 2 discs, each disc, the heavy one and the soft one, they're not. I don't think they're particularly remarkable. I think they've got really good songs. I'm proud of them, and the heaviness level of this heavy one, it's pretty impressive. For me, there's heavier bands, but they don't really do anything special on their own. They're not. If you put on either one, you'd be like, "Yep, okay." It's only when you realise, oh shit, this is the same fucking album, that it becomes an interesting concept. And so that really was essential. Yeah, I considered splitting them up, but I realised that actually they're much more exciting when it's like, no, this is the same fucking thing, ice cream with fucking gravy on, deal with it. You know, in fact, ice cream with gravy.
That sounds pretty good.
Good idea.
Should we stop the interview and go?
Yeah, absolutely. I like the idea that you would put on, which is the first one, the heavy one's first, in it, so you get right to the end of the muscle, and you'd be like, ugh, and you put the second disc in, and then bling, 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 and you think, what the fuck is going on? I wanted it to fuck with people. I did consider putting it out all jumbled up, like the heavy ones.
That'd be too much.
That'd be too much.
Yeah.
But no, I think the chief value of that album is that they coincide and they share themes, you know, and the songs are about the same things, family and depression and all this kind of stuff. They're all woven together, so they share the same subject matter, even if the music is wildly different. And of course, you know, that we had those 2 tracks that came together to make the same song, make a new song. I did that again to say, look, this is the same album.
I have this horrible feeling as well that someone might just be browsing in HMV. Oh, I like the look of this album. Goes home, listens to it. Oh, it's really mellow. I'll have to go and check him out. And then you come on stage and start with something like The Clock, and people will just be like, "This is the band I went to see." That's
what I loved, and I did that album cover on purpose because people think, "Oh, a lovely banjo record," and then you put on, Six Fingered Hand.
Yeah.
And I used to like the way we, with the heavy mellow band, we'd come on stage, and still people look at me if they'd see me in the street, and we got talking. I went to a shop the other day when I did an in-store, and the fellow was like, "Oh, what do you do?" People always ask me what I do. They think I'm a magician or something. And I said, I'm a heavy metal musician. And you never think it. And I always like it when people's outward appearances belie what they actually are. And so to see a fella like me in a 3-piece suit with a moustache and a hat and whatnot, you'd never get... And if you saw him like belting out like One of My Eyes as a Clock, you'd just be like, the fuck? It would really... I hope it blows your mind a bit. And I think some people do. If they haven't seen me before, they go, the hell's going on here? The 4 guys in 3-piece suits playing Six Fingered Hand. It's pretty immense. I enjoyed it.
So was it awesome when you actually brought out the album and people were coming to your shows? It wasn't just like coming to your show going, can you play some Reuben? People were loving the fact that you were playing these new songs and you were bringing a whole collection. You're not just playing the heavy side, and then if you come another night you get the acoustic side. You get a bit of both. You get a bit of the Reuben songs as well for the hardcore fans, but sure, you were doing what you wanted and you looked like you were having the time of your life on stage. You know, you were looking like you were loving it.
Really? Well, I mean...
now there's no Santa Claus.
No, there's no Santa Claus. When we did Muscle Memory, it was still quite difficult for me because I was still carrying a lot of weight from... my previous live experiences. Live had got very difficult for me and Reuben as well. All these things contributed. And so picking that back up, I was incredibly nervous and my voice found it very hard to sing all those heavy songs. But it was great. The reaction was great. And I liked the way... people didn't expect me to play any Reuben songs. People bought tickets to those shows just to hear the new stuff, which is incredibly encouraging and generous and open-minded of them. But of course I was going to play all the old songs, you know, not just for the audience, but for me as well. I like them. And then, you know, they're my songs. But it was great that people were willing to come and go, yep, whatever you got, let's give it a go. I thought that was super cool. And to say I'm grateful sounds incorrect because they're not doing it for my benefit. you can't really be grateful for things that aren't done for your benefit. What I mean to say is that I'm proud and admiring of music listeners and my listenership, that they were ready to accept whatever I had to give them. I think that's cool.
So let's talk about the most fresh album at the moment, Devolver.
Yeah.
Amazing album, and I'm not just saying it because I'm sat here now.
Watch
Fucking
out.
awesome, dude.
Oh, thanks.
You must be proud of it. It's sounding very, very sweet.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh well, that's all down to Space. He's at the controls there, making me sound good.
Did you have fun? I mean, you went away again. You know, it wasn't as long, but you went away and then suddenly came back with, you know, this album that's a mix. You can tell it's got elements of the guy that wrote Reuben songs, but it's also a breakaway of I'm now doing my thing, and it's nothing like your last album at all. It's a lot more radio friendly in parts.
Yeah, I suppose.
But it's different. Again, you've took it to another level.
Well, I'm relieved to hear you say that. I wasn't sure how different it was going to be. To me, it's just continuing what I was doing with those Reuben records. I always talk about Muscle Memory as a little bit of a sidestep. That was a project, you know. Let's see how heavy we can get, and let's see how jazz we can get. And so to go back to songs with just big guitars and big melodies, that's sort of what I've always done. I think if there is any progression there, it was partly down to Space and his synth and dance elements, which I've always liked. You know, again, people say, "Oh, this record sounds a lot like Nine Inch Nails," and I'm like, "Yeah." But then, so you know, I've always been a fan of, like, have you been listening to a lot of Nine Inch Nails recently? Listen to a lot of Nine Inch Nails since 1994, mate. You know, and it's always been a thread in all my records. But this one, it just pulls it out more, and maybe those songs, you know, a couple of these songs I've had for quite a while. I Don't Know Anything was supposed to be on that third Reuben record, and I know that's not one of the particularly Nine Inch Nailsy ones, although it is a little bit. What's my point here? I think it's that any sonic progression you can hear is to do with the which songs were chosen, and they were chosen by Space and by my management, and then we could see areas where Space could suffuse that with his particular specialities, which is danceable elements. He's worked with a lot of big dance acts, and so I'm glad it is a sonic progression. But I wrote it very similarly to how I'd written the Reuben albums. I think some of the songs are maybe a bit more linear, as in they sort of build rather than verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. I know a couple of them sort of repeat a thing and then they get stronger and they get stronger and then there's a big fucking blowout at the end. I quite like that. Maybe I hadn't done it before, so maybe that's a new feature. But I sort of approached it in the same way that I used to approach those Reuben records, writing-wise.
And how is that? Do you sit there with a pen and do the lyrics first, or do you pick up a guitar and write a melody, or are you sitting on a keyboard? How do you actually go about constructing a song? It
starts with the guitar. It always starts with the riff, really, and then that's what I'm big on, the riff. And then I just mumble something over the top, anything, and then I think of lyrics. Lyrics are the last bit that I do. Some of the time, most of the time. Every now and then a strong lyric will come through, or I've got something that I particularly want to say and it comes out. A lot of the time, the sort of gibberish that I sing over the top of of my first guitar idea, just to have something to say, will end up being the hook that I use for it. Like for instance, I Don't Know Anything. You know, I don't know anything. That's just 6 notes that fit that pattern. And then when I thought about it, I thought, oh shit, well, do I know much? And then I thought, well, let's write a song about that, about preconceptions and about how you think you're pretty clever and switched on, but actually you don't know fucking anything. And so sometimes the lyrics can come out of that. They come out of the gibberish, maybe a little snatch of just skit, scat, scatting that you do.
Yeah.
You think, oh, is that a good point? And maybe someone who is a little bit more philosophical than me might say, oh, that's your subconscious talking to you. And I'm not sure how much I believe in that. Although on Waterloo Teeth, which was the second single we did, which is on the record, I've said before that actually the lyrics on that have stayed the entirety of the gibberish that I wrote for the demo. Very often when I'm doing a demo, I just write some gibberish just to have anything to sing. And I didn't change a single word of that when it came to the record, because when I look back at the gibberish, I saw that it painted an alarmingly realistic picture of my state of mind. All this horrible imagery about shacks full of stuff and clanking machinery and wading in slime. Whew. I was stressed out. I didn't realise it, but I was. So that's what tumbled out. So I think there is a case to be made for that, being the subconscious talking.
It's like when I heard the song Mississippi, I was thinking, did he write that riff and then just think what word would go with that riff? Or did he love the word Mississippi, so he wrote a song to justify using that word? It was just such a... Now I listen to the M-I-double-S-I. I don't know how that would come about.
No, it was a little song that my dad used to sing. M-I-double-S-I, P-P-I. When he wasn't really paying attention, he would just go off into it. And then when he died, it got stuck in my brain, which is why it's on Muscle Memory at the end of Shotgun House.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't go away. I just kept fizzing around in my brain. And I just went, do, 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 do. Fucking hell, that's heavy. I wonder how that would sound with big drums on it. And then we played it, and then it became the song in itself. So yeah, that was the little tune came first.
Are you happy with the album? Do you listen back now? I can see it on your record collection here. Do you get it out and listen and think, you're not sitting there going, I should have done a harmony there, it needed a trumpet there? Were you happy with it?
Currently, I think I'm the happiest, actually, with Devolver.
Good.
Maybe even happier than In Nothing We Trust. Devolver's got the least things that I would change, I'd say. But that... I might feel different in a few years' time. Who can say? It's sewn up pretty tight, that record. There's not a lot of fat on it, although there are things that we put in just to give it some texture. Things like Comfort Animal. It's not really a song. That's more about giving it an atmosphere at that midpoint. But I think it's everything it needs to be. I'm pretty chuffed with it. I think it makes a very concise package, in the same way that In Nothing We Trust does, my other favourite. I think it has a beginning, a middle and an end. It's like 11 tracks. It's all you need to know. It paints quite a clear picture, whereas the other ones, the first two Reuben ones, they're a bit all over the place. Like I said, the second one could have been better with a bit of pruning. So could the first one. And then Muscle Memory is this crazy fucking experiment that doesn't make any sense. But In Nothing We Trust and now Devolver, I think they're quite compact and quite concise. And through that, they have a strength and a clarity, I think. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
And it wasn't that long ago you were touring this album. Obviously, it came out and you were going around the UK playing some shows. A lot of full most nights.
It was very good.
Are you feeling now like you did when Reuben started? Have you got that love again there? You want to go out there and you want to play music. You're not kind of, oh, for fuck's sake, another gig tonight. You're kind of enjoying it. Have you got that taste again?
I do, actually. I do. And it wasn't there at all when we were doing Muscle Memory, when we were touring with the Heavy Mellow Band. That is an important difference into how I am now compared to how I was from the last couple of years of Reuben through Muscle Memory to now. I didn't like playing live at all. And now, I'm mad for it. I love it. I had a great time on the tour. And it's mostly because I've slimmed down the live outfit to just the two, just to me and Daniel. Because there's so much less worry. There's so much less hassle. By the time I did a tour with the Heavy Mellow Band, it was 7 pieces. We had the 4... drums, bass, guitar, and me. And then we had a 3-part brass section as well. And we would have guest singers and whatnot, And even though that was an impressive musical undertaking, and I'm glad we did it, it was so stressful. And when I thought, when we started touring the new material last year of Devolver, again, that stress mountain approached me, went, time to call everyone up and rehearse everyone with a whole album's worth of material. I thought, oh, God, I really can't do it. I'm not a young man anymore. And then when I suddenly thought, well, look, we'd had such a good time tracking the record with just me and Daniel, and it sounded so great just in the room with just the guitar and me. I started to wonder, look, is there a viable way we can take, because it had such energy, is there a way we can take this live? Do we need the other people? Can we do it with just me and Daniel? And I'm glad that we found a way. And that really has been a huge part of why I am a lot keener than I was to play live, because back in the days of the band, the early days of the band, there's only 3 of us, and we didn't need a sound engineer. We didn't need a tour manager. We would literally just go to a gig in a transit with the gear in the back of the van. You could just do a gig like that. If someone said, "Do you want to do a gig in an hour?" We'd be like, "Yep, see you there," and we just do it. Whereas as time goes on, things get more and more complex. It takes more and more planning, and it's
people
more of an
have
uphill...
wives and kids. And,
exactly.
You know, getting
Exactly.
7 people in a room
That's
on
true.
one night is a challenge.
You're right. You're exactly right. There's so much to do, and the more of that you can strip away, the easier it becomes. So I feel very similar now to I did back then, where someone could say, "Do you want to do a gig next week or even tomorrow?" And I don't have to think that hard about it. I only have to make one call.
Yeah.
Daniel, are you free? Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great, and it's so flexible, and you know, because it's only me and the drums, I can just leave him playing. You know, I can just tell him, "Look, keep going," and I'll have a little jam out or whatever. We can decide, let's do that one instead. We'd have to check with 2 or 3 other people. That's been a big part of it for me. Playing live as a 2-piece has really reinvigorated my live career. And the last tour we went on was just dynamite, yeah.
So coming up in the summer, you've got, which we've mentioned already, but Download Festival.
Yeah.
Little Jimmy's pulled his socks off
Absolutely,
again.
he has, hasn't he? Yeah. Got me a good slot, actually, up there with the Hives. Yeah, good stage, that one.
Do you ever worry that there's this band kind of taped up in a van somewhere and tied up that should have been playing, and he's
Maybe.
gone in, deleted their name, put on Reuben or Jamie,
Yeah.
and kind of, you know, no one's ever kind of twigged and gone, hang on, that's not...
Could be, but
You know
then
what I
I've
mean?
been that band taped up in the back of the van somewhere, so it works both ways.
It works all right,
Yeah.
all right. So if people want to see you, they can come and see you at Download.
They definitely should, and lots of other great bands, yeah.
You can tell people you're supporting Guns N' Roses if people ask. That's quite
No,
nice.
I won't tell them that. I won't mention it. They'll be like, "Who's playing down under that?" I don't know, mate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And have you got any more plans to go out there and play Devolver again, or do you like to just release an album, now go and tour it as a 2-piece, and then, right, let's look at the next stage, or are you up for going out there again and giving people a chance to see these songs again?
No, I'd love to go out again. I don't think I'd do the Devolver tour again. That tour we just did was very much centred on, you know, this is my new album. It was mostly, you know, it was maybe 50 or 60% with stuff off the new record, which is good. And we did the 2 drum kits, which was quite, you know, bold for me, and I'm glad to say it worked. But that was because the album is so rhythmic. I'd love to do more tours, but I just wouldn't want people to get sick of me, you know. I don't know how many times you could see the same act in the same year and still be excited about it. But we're doing festivals all throughout the summer, so that's the summer taken care of. And then I think we're looking at maybe going out and supporting another act in the second half of the year, which would be good. So I'm not sure if there'll be time for my own tour. I like supporting acts. We went and supported Arcane Roots for a week in Europe, which is so much fun. And I haven't been a support act again since Reuben.
Which is bands like bloody Billy Talent back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah. I love being the support act, and I love going around with the band and being I like being the warm up and getting people to a boiling point. And I like surprising people that haven't seen you before. There's a certain element of shooting fish in a barrel when you do your own show, because you know that people will like certain things. Not that it's easy to win them over, but they're already on your side, aren't they? Whereas if you go to not so much a cold audience, but an audience that haven't heard you, or not a lot of them haven't, that's very exciting to see. Or what will they like? You know, maybe you go down like a lead balloon, but hopefully not. And that's not usually the case. But I'd really like to go out on a support tour, and then do another headline tour, and then look at the next record maybe into next year. So we've still got quite a lot of stuff on the agenda for this year before we start thinking about that.
See, people now listening are going to go, oh my God, he's just announced he's going to do another album.
Oh no, and now they're going to start thinking about,
it better be Reuben.
What's it going to be like?
Yes.
Oh no.
Stuck in my throat and better be on there.
Absolutely.
And where are you at now with writing? Do you put it to bed? Are you kind of like, Devolver's done, I'm not going to do anything now until it's the stage of a new album? Or are you going to bed some nights and thinking, I can't sleep, I'm going to pick up a guitar and write?
Yeah, that's always how it happens at the second one, really. It just, I never go into a concentrated period of writing or whatever. I just write.
When it feels right.
Yes. Just when it comes to me, and I get an idea. You know, I wrote a new song just before the last tour and was so excited about it. I thought, let's play this on the tour, even though that's a bizarre thing to do. Just because it had come to me, and I was like, great, new song, and I wanted to show it to people. And that sort of happens, you know, every now and then I get a little idea and I follow it through, and I sort of put it in the vault. I put it in the bag of songs, and I think, well, look, that's done. I think about that later. And then when it comes time to making a record, I look at the bag of songs and I go, right, what am I excited about? What fits together well? And that's how we did Devolver. I had a big bag of songs and I took them all to the producer and the management, and they both picked broadly the same 10 or 12 songs. And it was a surprise to me. Some songs that I wouldn't have thought would go well together or even appear on an album. Like Body Popping. I thought Body Popping was just a stupid little demo I'd done at 4 a.m. for my own amusement. They were like, that's the single! I was like, you're crazy! We put it on and it worked. And so that is, if I do another record, or when I do another record, it will probably be along the same lines. I'll have a look in the song bag and go, what makes a good set? And any new ones that I have by then will probably get a shoe in, or I might think, this is good, but I need something a little bit brighter there for the second act, let's say, of the record. So my thoughts might turn to something a little bit brighter, and I might end up writing something for that gap. But that's sort of how I do it. I'm sort of writing all the time and storing away, and then when it comes time to put something out, I have a look at what will go best together.
In that little bag of like pick a mix, which let's say, are there any ones that kind of have an expiry date? Do you give something a limit, or is there stuff in there that's been around since your teenage years?
No, some of them do have an expiry date.
Right.
I mean, like I say, I keep talking about I Don't Know Anything. That's at least 10 years old.
Wow.
And it's ended up on this record.
That's quite nice, though, that it's not, you're going in there and you might see the light one day.
Oh, exactly.
There's hope. There's hope for everything in that bag.
There was a track on Muscle Memory, the song Muscle, that had been around since before Pilot, before Reuben's first EP. It just didn't fit anywhere.
Cool.
And so I was like, oh, maybe that riff will work. So, yeah, they do get shoved to the back. The newer songs do get precedence. And I go, oh, I want to put that on the record. And the older ones get a bit... come back, like Kate Winslet at the end of Titanic blowing on a whistle. Come back. But I can see them glinting in the back and go, oh, what's this? Oh, yeah, that's pretty good, And that way they get sort of freshened and revivified. Quite often if I, like with that riff off Muscle, I only sort of had the riff and then it went in a weird direction, so I sort of chopped the dead bits off and shoved it into a new bit, and, it all goes into it's like pottage. The medieval Europeans used to eat this food called pottage. You know about pottage?
Bit of everything.
Bit of everything. They just have a pot that was always above the fire, and whatever you add, buttons, bit of rabbit, pocket lint, put it in the pot, stir it away. Some of that shit's been there a long time, but you just put it on the plate and that's whatever you've got. Is that how I make my albums? Yeah, I think that's probably, it's like pottage.
There you go.
Oh, shit.
Audio pottage.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And do you think that it might get to the day when you think, we'll do like we should have gone to university again and just release all of them on a 2-disc set so they're out there? Do you ever think that there's some of them that are just only made for a compilation or a B-side, or you're just thinking... Yeah, no,
that's a good point. I do sort of think that somewhere I'd quite like to do a record. At some point I might have a bit of a clear out and just say, look, these are like 10 or 12 songs that just don't fit anywhere. This is not an album. It's just 10 songs and they're weird and they wouldn't fit on anything else. I think that'd be quite a fun album. Those are always my favourite albums anyway. I always love the B-side collections that don't have any... As much as I've put an emphasis on having a strong line through it, like those 2 records of mine that I think have managed to do it, I really like the ones where there's no through line at all. I love Incesticide by Nirvana as my favourite Nirvana album. I love Beatles Past Masters 1 and 2. And to a certain extent... what's the record they did of Sgt. Pepper's Magical Mystery Tour?
Yes.
Is actually, although they were sort of created at the same period, it's an EP and a few singles. So it's a bit jumbledy-higgledy-piggledy. I quite like that. It's like a box of chocolates.
Yes.
So at some point, I might have a bit of a clear out and go, look, here's just the ones that have been hanging around for ages. They're like 20 years old. They don't make any sense. Here they are. I think that'd be a fun record to make.
Like the car boot sale album.
Absolutely, that's what I'm going to call it,
Can I have a bit of rights on that?
No. No.
Some pick a mix?
Yeah.
From Wilco's?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good trade, I think.
They've got a good selection.
Amazing. So if anyone's tuned in and they're only wanting to hear about your other passion because they know that you're a good artist and you love comics, you love Doctor Who, you have a Dalek.
Yeah.
How's all that? Do you still find time? Because whenever I grow up, and I don't grow up, I grow older, the cool stuff seems to not get as much time as I wanted. The cool toys, the cool stuff I used to watch.
Yeah.
Do you still get time to do these animations and these great pictures? I mean, you did the artwork for we should have gone to university and stuff, and it's very you know, you can tell it's your work.
Right.
Are you still getting time to dedicate to that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the joys is that it's a difficult line to tread. People say if you find a job you love, you never have to work again. But on the other side of that is if you make your hobby your job, you'll end up hating your hobby.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So watch out, because, you know, my two hobbies when I was a kid at school, when they were saying do science and maths, were writing songs and drawing cartoons. And that's ended up being my job, which is lucky, because they said stop doing them. And I was like, nah.
You'll never make this as a career.
But as a consequence, yeah, you do end up in a funny half place where they are, you know, they were my hobbies and they're now my jobs. And so they do have, whereas they used to be pure free expression, they're now very often a means to an end, you know, to a certain extent. Certainly, I haven't drawn a cartoon for myself for years, because whenever I draw a cartoon, it's for a job, it's for a commission or whatever, magazine editorial or what have you. So, I mean, the cool stuff I have, like Doctor Who, I've managed in a very small way to make that part of my career. I do a lot of work for Doctor Who magazine, and so all the cool stuff that I buy, all my action figures, I need them for reference.
Yes.
You know, I need this. I do.
Yes.
I've got all those action figures. I regularly get them out. If I'm on a commission and I need to see the back of the Doctor's jacket or something, I get the toys out and I draw from them, you know. So in that way, I've been lucky, and comics and music, they're part of what I do for my job. So they get a lot of time. Well, they get all my time. Really?
Why didn't I think of that when I'm buying stuff and the wife's having a go at me saying, why have you wasted all this money on these toys? I'm like, I need it for reference.
You do. No, it's true.
Damn, that's the best get out of prison card ever.
It sounds like a joke, but it's true. Even that big old Dalek I bought, I can't tell you how many times I've put him in various positions and drawn him properly. You know, he's valuable to me in my job. Yeah.
Cool. And the last question I want to finish with today is when I do interviews, I always speak to people that have got good advice.
Oh, gosh.
So, anyone that's listening that's now thinking of picking up a guitar, entering a competition to win a Yamaha, or, you know, a part of a 10 gil group that might get 100 quid.
Yeah.
What advice do you give for people now wanting to make it into the music industry? It's a tough one, isn't it?
I think what I would say is do as much of it yourself as you can. Don't wait for outside agencies to get involved. Just do it. If you're going to make an album, don't wait for someone to go, here's £1 million, make an album. Make it. Save up, pull a couple of favours, make a good album, you know, book your own shows until people catch up with you and go, hey, I'll do that for you. Do you want me to be your agent? Do you want me to be your label? Just be running at the time. If I had to solidify into a visual metaphor, which I don't, but I will, it's sort of, don't wait at a street corner for people to come up to you and go, how about this? Be walking along the street and they will have to sort of trot a little bit to catch up with you to go, oh, by the way, you're already moving. So, do all your own stuff until people catch up with you to come on board to your team, the people you need, the agents, the labels. You do need these people, but you can do a lot of it yourself, and just keep moving. Don't wait. It's basically, if I had to dispense with the clumsy metaphor, which maybe you should edit that out. Don't wait.
Or stand on street corners.
Or stand on street corners waiting for
Both
people
are
to
not
approach
good.
you. Don't do that either, no.
It's good though as well, because at the moment it's a good time to do it. It's affordable to record your own album at home on your computer. It's not like you need this big studio. You can sit there now and learn how to use Pro Tools or Cubase by just YouTube videos. There's no excuse. If you want to make a music video, you can do it on an iPhone.
Yeah.
There's no better time, and there's no excuse that if you want to do it, go for it.
Yeah, and I mean, the internet has made it easier to be seen. Everyone's got access. So to a certain point, you can be your own label and produce and whatever. And it's after you get that initial platform that you then need help standing out in the sea of all these other people. And that's when people like agents and labels will help you out. But if you're already up and running, then you have an advantage. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for joining me today, Jamie. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. You joined me. You came to my house.
I know.
Yeah.
That's, I like it when people go, do you want to come to my house? I'm like, well, that means you haven't got to leave the house, which is great.
Yeah.
But I'm also, you're not going to be any more relaxed than in your own house.
This is true.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
It meant a lot. And let's come back on in a few years when you've done another album.
Oh, bloody hell. All right.
No pressure.
Deal. That's a deal.
Fantastic. Thank you. So there's my interview with me and Jamie Lenman, and I hope you all really enjoyed it. A whole 90 minutes, and honestly, I could have sat there and talked for another couple of hours. Easily my favourite guest to date. Personally, I can't believe it's happened. I'm so proud of this interview because it's something that I never really thought would happen, but now it has. I'm so grateful it's turned out so well, and I hope you've all enjoyed it. When I was at Jamie's and we were packing stuff down and finishing the interview, we were kind of just talking about films and TV, and I was telling him all about Skip to the End and stuff, and he was really kind of opening up and telling me all about his film tastes and his TV, and he's a huge fan of Doctor Who. He was showing me his whole collection, and he's got this kind of room in his house that's got all this treasure in, and I'm talking like old nostalgic retro figures and toys, and there's Thundercats figures and wrestling figures, and he really had one of the best collections I've ever seen, especially if you're a fan of Doctor Who. He had a Dalek, he had some absolute awesome stuff, and we were talking about all these films and TV, and I really saw him kind of light up. And as much as I enjoyed talking to him for an hour and a half purely about music and Reuben and his own stuff, I really saw a different side where he really lit up and was really interested in this stuff, and I thought, do you know what? We should follow this up because he has so much to say and so much to show. I think we should do this as a video kind of interview next time and give everyone out there this chance to see this incredible collection that he's got, because so many collectors and so many fans of some of these figures that he has would absolutely love this. So Jamie's been good enough to say that I'm allowed to go back down there, and we'll do this in the next few months and then put it out there on maybe YouTube for you all to check out, and we can kind of talk all about his collection in more detail, and I think most of you will find this absolutely fascinating. I want to finish today by saying a big thank you to Jamie for being so accommodating and inviting me to his own home. You hear the audio quality and how much of an improvement it is over a telephone or Skype interview, so thanks Jamie very much. If you haven't got the album, please go and invest. It really is my album of last year, and I think it's worth every single penny. So stop right now and go and buy it. Feel free to tweet Jamie the feedback and go on to markandme.com and let me know if you've enjoyed the episode. On there's my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram, my emails. I really would love to hear what you thought of this interview, and hopefully you enjoyed it as much as me. I will be back in the next couple of weeks with another interview, and as always, if you really enjoyed this interview and want to help, I do have a Patreon page set up, and that's on markandme.com. Even if you just throw me $1 a month, it all helps, and it's things like getting to go down to Jamie's and pay for the petrol and do all these interviews that is the reason I do this Patreon, and you can see how I invest your money. So I'm so grateful for you all that have kind of pledged so far. And if anyone else wants to get involved, it's very much appreciated and allows me to do more and more interviews, which is great for you guys. I will be back in a couple of weeks, so until then, stay safe and I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you.
This is a song about a show on TV, a detective show if you will. All about cops and robbers, shooting guns, high-speed colleges.